Update on this Jeep Cherokee. It has the 3.7, which in my opinion is much better than the 4.7. See up here, 3.7. And this one is a model year of 2006. This is the 4x4 all-wheel drive, whatever you want to call it. It was running hot, but it took a while to run hot. Like, took a while. And I checked the fan. The fan was working. As you can see, I pulled the thermostat, pulled the water pump. It had more water in it than radiator fluid. Water boils faster than radiator fluid. So you want to have a good 50-50 mix. Me personally, I like running a 60-40 mix. You know, some guys will argue against it, to each their own, but I like running a 60-40 mix. It helps the engine keep from oxidizing. You see all this oxidation right here built up? That's obviously a lot less than a 50-50 mix causing all that oxidation, but you prevent oxidation at all when you run a 60-40. Like a 70-30 is too much coolant. 70 coolant, 30 water, that's too much coolant. But I've noticed that like 55-45, 60-40, that's the sweet spot if you're gonna nitpick it. 50-50 is kind of like bare minimum. But anyways, what we have here is your transmission cooler lines, and you could see they're coming in to the side of the radiator. And then you also have your AC refrigerant lines running alongside of the frame. And here's your what's this, low side? I want to say this is low side, or maybe yeah, that looks like high side over there and low side over here. So those are your AC ports. Here's your AC fitting into the side of this condenser. But what I'm finding odd is the transmission cooler is feeding off of the AC condenser, not the radiator. On this particular model, you have a power steering cooler which is separate, or is this an oil cooler? I want to say it's power steering. Yep, it goes right to the power steering, the lines. So this is your power steering cooler. And the transmission cooler fittings are C-clipped, and they weren't leaking from in here. But you can see all this right here, and I looked, and this was like loose goose. Like, there was no need to even, I could have took it off by hand. That's how loose the nut fitting on this was. So obviously I retightened it. I guess it worked itself loose with time. So obviously I've retightened that on there, and you can see how bad it was. Look down in there. So how is air passing through there, guys? There's no air that's gonna get through there. And if air is not going to get through this part of the condenser, then how is it going to get through the radiator behind it? So obviously the car is going to run hot when it sits in traffic. This is pretty caked up, as you can see there. And I'll show you from underneath. So that's a good bit of, a good portion of the condenser that's not getting any air. And then over here, the condenser just looks a little mangled up from just debris in the highway. You know the chicken's mesh thing they sell at the hardware store? I usually get some chicken mesh, pull the bumper off, and line it with chicken mesh to protect it from anything that would be falling out through there. Lost a rubber mount to the radiator here. Make sure we don't lose it. Here's your fan. Remove the grill, remove the hoses, and we were doing some testing on the fan. As you can see, the wires were skimmed, and the fan is running good as it should. And we went ahead and pulled the thermostat. It did look rusted out, like it's been there for a while. And that water pump looks a little tired too. as you can see. And so we went ahead and replaced this water pump. It's the weep hole on the bottom. I leave the bolts in it so I know how to put the bolts exactly where they go in the new water pump. And I brush the bolts clean and rethread them. Check your idler pulley, make sure it's good, you know. I'm not replacing the radiator cap because it looks a-okay. But I mean, it's got some sweet little rims on it, painted brake calipers, tires are good. It's not a bad little rig. Interior is decent, needs to be clean, but it's decent. And it's a Laredo 4x4. So yeah, that's it. That's pretty much all there is to it. You know, it's a little Jeep Cherokee. But that's the diagnosis. How is it not going to run hot with cooler lines leaking everywhere? And if that's transmission cooler line leaking like that, I'm going to obviously check the transmission fluid and top it off and make sure that it's not low. I'm going to go ahead and do the water pump as preventative maintenance. I'm going to go ahead and detach the radiator from the condenser and remove it. If you don't know how to do that, there's 2 bolts right there. That's one of the bolts, that little, what looks like a 10 mil. And then the other one is on this side, and the radiator should detach and come out. And I want to get a good cleaning on it. You can kind of see how that leaky was coming through, even soaking in through the back of the radiator. So I want to get the radiator out and get a good clean. And since I went ahead and tightened this up by a little bit just to confirm that the threads weren't damaged and that it would tighten, I think I'm going to go ahead and remove it and Teflon tape it, and then put it back in just to make sure it doesn't leak again. But that's all I'm going to really do. Put it back together, water pump, thermostat. I'm going to clean this, obviously. I don't know if this was leaking. It looks like it was leaking because the oil filter was left loose, or it could be leaking from that oil pressure switch. I don't know. I'm saying more it was oil filter leak. But we'll clean it and keep an eye on it and put it back together. But it's tore down. It's a matter of clean it up next and begin reassembly. Sand all the surfaces, clean everything up here, flush out the radiator, clean out the condenser, everything I already said. I'm not gonna repeat myself, but clean little SUV. We'll save it. We'll keep it from overheating. Hopefully new water pump, real coolant going back in it. You know, all this stuff will do us justice, and we'll be able to have a good reliable Jeep that will have good airflow through it all the way across, left to right, top to bottom, won't overheat. We'll verify fans are kicking on and off again once we reassemble it. They were when it was taken apart, but we'll verify it one more time. Drive it until the thermostat burps. We'll make sure we open the bleeder as we're burping it to bleed everything through the system properly, get all the air pockets out of the cooling system. And that's about it. Nothing magical, you know. And once we can let it idle in the driveway for an hour without it overheating, we've confirmed we're probably not going to overheat, and at that point we can take it for a nice little test drive. Anyways, just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on, document what's happening, show proof of the teardown for the future owner of the vehicle to see. And that's about it. I think I covered everything. So thanks for watching. Catch y'all on the next video.